My question is, as governor, how will you support public transportation options, not just in the metro area, but to connect with greater Minnesota so that people have more choices in how to travel and get places and not be reliant on owning a car?
Did you hear that question? Okay, and Mr. Hanso.
Well, I've learned one thing when it comes to public transportation and running for governor, that if you want to upset some Republicans, you say you support light rail in the Central Corridor, as I do and as I've mentioned over and over. You can only imagine what sort of discussion ensued when I brought this up with some Tea Party type activists. It wasn't the most pleasant, I'd say. I love the concept of expanding public transportation for a myriad of reasons, and I think it starts with the Central Corridor. The sooner we can get over some of those hurdles, and we've done a good job by working with the university, and if we could just get public radio and the neighborhood groups on board in different ways, we'll get that program completed and get to take advantage of the federal monies that are out there. What it does is it's cleaner, it's more efficient, it takes more cars off the road. Let's face it, I think with light rail, and that really is our future here in the metro area, if we look at servicing the greatest number of people, it can be very effective because different people have different opinions. I think certain people will ride a light rail train, but they won't ride a bus. And so I think the more we can do in that area, the better. I think we need to be a big proponent of high-speed rail between here and Chicago. I don't think we can provide public transportation to every single community in the state. I think we have to work where it can be most economically beneficial and reduce the greatest amount of pollution.
Mr. Intenza.
Thanks. We need to have a 20-year plan for transit for the metro, but also for all of Minnesota. And as someone who grew up in southwest Minnesota, where we have very few transit options, I think this is the right time to do it. We have an incredible member of Congress in Jim Oberstar, who is the chair of the Federal Transportation Committee. We have an opportunity with the recession and with our interest rates at historic lows to do strategic investment. And partnering with the Obama administration and with Congressman Oberstar and the federal government, now is the time when we can be building high-speed rail all over this state to hook things up. For example, if we get rail going between Minneapolis-St. Paul and Duluth, that's estimated to add almost $1 billion in property value to the property along that line. That's value that people are getting for a public investment. That's new jobs and investment that's going on. That's businesses that are deciding that they can set up along that corridor. But what we've seen is tremendous hostility to mass transit. Tom Emmer is part of a radical group that has consistently opposed transit, opposed light rail, opposed regional rail like the North Star Corridor, and that will cripple our economy. We will wind up in gridlock if we don't have more transit. We also can't do it by just talking about personal responsibility. We need a governor who's going to make this a commitment. I've made clean energy, the new energy economy, and sustainability the core of my agenda again and again, and transit in the metro and across the state of Minnesota is the key piece to make sure that happens.
Mr. Dayton.
The most immediately available and the most cost-efficient form of public transit are buses. We have lagged behind other states, and our various regions are concentrated metro area here, and our population centers in greater Minnesota have lagged behind the investments that other regions have made in buses as viable alternatives, providing the incentives for ridership, providing a better network of more efficient ways that people can use public transit, particularly in areas like St. Cloud and throughout greater Minnesota, where the public transit is beginning. We need to provide the kind of incentives that are necessary. We do need to expand rail. We're, again, lagging seriously behind. I've been to China 7 times the last 8 years. I've seen what is real high-speed rail that connects their cities, trains that are going as fast as 240 miles an hour. But we need to be taking those steps here. It's going to take decades to do what we should have been doing already, and we could have if we had started back when the Metropolitan Council had originally proposed back in 1970 that we developed this network of rail and buses. But given that we're starting from behind, we just have to make greater investments to catch up because if we don't, this area is going to be increasingly clogged, congested in terms of travel. People have choices where to locate a business, where do they want to work, are going to move to regions of the country that have made those investments that provide greater ease of transportation. So our economic future, our social vitality depend upon making these investments now.
Mr. Horner.
Well, there's only one person in this race who can lay claim to actually having put together the strategies, put together the teams, put together the coalitions to break through the gridlock, and as Matt and Rob talked about, break through the vitriol to actually get a mass transit system constructed. You might recall in 2002, the North Star commuter line was the third rail of public policy. Republicans were running ads saying that it's social engineering, and Democrats wouldn't go anywhere near it. We put together the strategies, we engaged the public, we got people to understand the value of that commuter line, and last November, no one was smiling bigger and brighter when he cut the ribbon than Governor Tim Pawlenty. That's leadership. That's what it takes. It's not just throwing a lot of tax dollars at problems, it's engaging people. It's having the respect to talk to people about responsible decisions, to talk to them honestly about the choices we can make. Of course, we need to look at more transit options, but we need to do it smart. I support the Central Corridor, but look what's happening to the Central Corridor. We now are creating a system that will run from downtown St. Paul to downtown Minneapolis and take 45 minutes to get there. We're building the Metrodome of light rail transit. We can't afford to do that. We've got to make tough decisions, build a system that is going to be a true system, that is going to move people, not just meet political needs, not just to build something for somebody's economic development benefit, but to build systems that create community vitality.